Hi, this is Zach Meir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Friday, the 30th of June. Things looking rather better as we end the quarter with a bear trap rebound from below the initial June support there around the 74.45 level. Above that, the initial target there was up to the 200-day moving average, just above current levels, and then ideally in the first week of next month up to that April resistance line around 76.20. 76.30 was the initial April support, and so therefore this market may make a beeline for that, especially helped by the bullish divergence of the low for the second half of June, but the higher RSI trace, and we bounce very near the 30 level, which tends to be the buy point for the FTSE anyway. On the downside, not looking at anything worse than 73.80 and that April or late March support line projection. Moving on to the DAX, which has led the way over the recent past, and presumably it's going to do the same today. Yes, it has. Here we had a nice picture towards, over the last week or so with the gap down that we had a couple of weeks back, or at least 10 days ago, and then the gap higher this week. So it's a bear trap island reversal from below 15,900. Above the 50-day line, looking for the market to at least retest the May and June resistance for this market around 16,400. Big picture, and hoping it might happen over the summer, would be that we hit the top of that, or we move towards the top of that rising trend channel from back in September at 17,400. But that's a long way away. On the downside, 15,600, 15,700, and the late May support bear trap low could be on its way. RSI now comfortably above neutral 50 at 55, so that is helpful. Moving along to the Dow, which has been delivering something of a dance either side of the 34,000 level. That's the old April 2022 resistance line, and you can see that there from last year. We've had basically trading a range either side of it. The 50-day line come in as good support over the last week or so, and we want to see a decent weekly close above 34,000 to give us a chance of up to 35,000 at that March resistance line projection. Downside at the worst at the moment seen as being no lower than the 200-day line, now around 32,900. RSI at 57, which is right in the box seat in terms of a continuation to the upside. So let's see if the Dow can finally deliver. Moving on to Bitcoin, which has been, relatively speaking, the star of the show over the course of June. We had the big move up, and we've held the 30,000 level. Bull flag here at the higher levels, which is very encouraging. Makes it look as though the initial move we have had for June is a mid-move for consolidation, or it's the part of a bigger move which has a mid-move consolidation. End of day close through 31,000. We could be heading up to 35,500. over the next few weeks, certainly by the end of next month. 50 and 200-day moving averages both rising as well, so that's also backing the idea of this market improving. On to the stocks, and had a bit of a flyer with Amte the other day when it was around 6.5, and it peaked around 9 3/4, but came back quite quickly. Might have another go and test the 9 3/4 pence area. If we can break that, then it could be up to 12 or 13 pence, which was resistance on the way down. And don't really want to see an end of day close back below the 6 pence level, which was the initial neckline resistance for this market. The RSI is still very oversold at 13, so that's why we're going for at least a retest of the 10p area, even if the shares fall after that. One of the bigger stocks today, bigger market cap stocks today, is Aston Martin, and here we had our old target around 350, and the view was that above 350 we could head up for a new leg as high as £4.50 by the end of next month. Obviously there's some way to go to get back to the IPO price, which I believe was around £20, but you've got to start somewhere. At this point, only back below 335, which is basically the late support of this week, really delaying the upside scenario. And the reason we like this chart is because we had a massive unfilled gap to the upside and then held the top of the gap, and obviously have then progressed well from there. Speaking of situations which maybe are not as good as they could have been, Audioboom It's been a bit of a shocker over the recent months. We actually probed back below the 200 pence level, the low 177. There was the risk of below £2 going back down to 150, but so far we've resisted that. 150 to £2 was a range previously a couple of years back. But the view now is that at least while we're above £2, if we can get an end of day close above that, we might rally towards the 220s or 230s to test the bottom of that gap. But still in the emergency room there for Audioboom at the moment. And no bullish divergence on that lower low either. So the only plus point really today is that we're back within that falling trend channel from March. So I suppose that is something of a result. Going the other way, in a better way, is Berkeley Energia. We've been onto this since the break of the 24-25 pence area, looking for the shares to head up to 42 pence. And the theory here is that it may be influenced by the forthcoming Spanish general election, which might change the game for the company. This stage only back below 30 pence, which was the recent resistance, broken resistance, really delaying the idea of 42 pence happening perhaps as soon as the end of next month. Moving on to Cloudbreak, which we managed to get on the back of over the recent past. We were looking for the shares to hit up to 0.75, rather squeamishly actually, and as you can see today, we've not only done that, but we've also hit the best case scenario target at 1.1 pence, and so we're now left scrabbling for what could be the next target. And on the basis of this daily chart, really looking for a resistance line projection as high as 1.8 pence by the end of next month, while we remain above the 200-day moving average at around the 1 penny level, 0.98. But it's nice to see a stock which is nearly bagged in a day, which is rather rare in current market conditions. Onto a stock which we've also been following, and it's behaved itself. We've got Invinity Energy Systems, and we've hit our first target there, just around the 49 pence level. I think the high today, 49.5. End of day close through 49.5, or let's say 50, and we could have another leg up towards 65 pence as soon as the end of next month. Support hopefully will come in at around the 45 pence areas. That's been the recent resistance. 45, 46 pence has been the recent resistance. So above 45, looking for 65 by way of a decent close over 50. One of the stocks which has been a bit of a nightmare of the recent past, well, one of the many I suppose, is Arcadian. But just the first signs of recovery here. Nice to see, one, that the RSI was so low, in sort of 3 or 4 out of 100, and also that we had a sort of sideways shuffle there at the lows, which almost indicated, or could indicate to some, that the sellers have run out of steam, if that makes any sense. We've broken back towards the resistance on the way down at 2.75 pence. And above that, there's a possibility, if we get an end of day close above that, to head up to the 50-day moving average area, around 4.25 pence over the next 4 weeks, so maybe by the end of next month. But really, obviously, we don't want to see any new lows there in the mix, and ideally, we get back above 2.75 rather, before assuming that further gains are on their way. Better situation is Panthera, and another stock which has hit our targets. It's always pleasing when that happens. Here we had initial target there around 6.2 pence, next target around 7.75, and above 7.75. Now looking for a fresh line there from February last year, heading up to 12 pence as soon as the end of next month, and ideally we stay well above the 7 pence level, that peak there back in March around the 7 pence area as well. In fact, looks like sort of 7.5 pence. So ideally staying above 7.5 and then getting up to 12 by the end of July. Bigger stock again, because obviously there are not too many small stocks coming up with the goods. We've got Petrofac, rising trend channel from the beginning of the year. We've broken a trend line there, probably I'm not fitting that line absolutely correctly there, but above 75 pence, we're regarding this as a breakout. We could head up to £1 over the next 4 to 6 weeks. If you're cautious, maybe you wait for the 200-day line to break around 83 pence, but with that break after such an extended consolidation, it looks as though the shares are on their way, and unfilled gap to the upside off the low suggests that there was a bit of a handbrake turn for the bears to deal with, and now that we've taken up the slack since April, 100 pence could be on its way, maybe by the end of August, or hopefully a bit sooner. Stock which has delivered the goods today after FDA, so the green light from the FDA, has been Renalytix, and here you can see that actually the shares also had a handbrake turn, so they were heading south ahead of this news and have gapped higher, so that's what I call the handbrake turn. Current situation is that we're in a rising trend channel based at the 50-day moving average, 50 and 200-day lines around 87. Top of the channel there as high as £1.60. And the longer we stay above the gap on the way down around £1.10, the greater the chance of £1.60 being delivered as soon as the end of next month. But quite a relief that the markets actually responded to FDA approval rather than the normal cynical lack of action that we seem to get a lot of the times with this current market condition. Onto stock which has been requested, Red Rock Resources, and here reasonable consolidation at and above the 50-day line. That's around 0.16, and it looks as though also that's starting to turn higher. We've had a double RSI bounce off neutral 50, so on that basis, if it wasn't Red Rock, you'd probably be quite keen to say that the shares can go up from current levels as high as 0.3 pence at the top of that broadening triangle from March, and the upside valid while we're above the 50-day line. So if that particular call works, I think one would be quite pleased indeed. On to Serenes, which looks like it's finally behaving properly after an extended bear run. Here we've had this U-shaped bull flag, rising 50-day moving average near the low, which is normally good. And we're just about to close that gap there from around the 5 3/4 pence level. Above that, looking for 7.5 pence by the end of next month, and ideally we stay above 5 pence in the interim. Another win for the Bulletin board heroes, or probably more accurately for shareholders of Woodwire, has been this particular stock with those lovely Monaco investors, which have obviously boosted sentiment. Here we had a target around 3/4 penny. Above that, we were hoping that the shares could fill that gap up to around a penny as soon as the end of next month. But looking firm here, at least while we're above the mid-60s on Woodbois, and the light at the end of the tunnel, especially on a fundamental basis. That's it from me today. More updates over the weekend.